right, good morning. Bike Talk with your host, Jeff. City biking down to Chelsea from Harlem on today is September 12th. It's a Thursday, beautiful day. And it's really humid. Not gonna lie, it's a super humid day. This is one of the days where it's like not super hot. I think it's 75 or 80, maybe 70, you know, some in between there. But it's super humid, so it's pretty brutal. I'm already sweating. It's been like 90 seconds. Let's see what we got here. Can I get through here? I think I can. Yeah. I'm gonna start to get some guests on the show, ask some questions, learn about, you know, how everybody, other cyclists, how they feel about a lot of these topics. Still have not paved this. Wow, that's cruddy. That's 2 blocks there. Need to be paved. Oh, yeah. Okay. So crazy news. Well, not really crazy, more mind-blowing just for me, to be honest, just me. Oh wow, so this girl's coming the wrong way. Oh, okay, there's nothing coming here. But I thought I heard that sort of garbage truck and figured it was coming up tight on my left, right behind me. These guys are the door zone. It's a really good example of why these bike lanes, when you do this configuration, you absolutely need a buffer so that when drivers throw open their door or, you know, stand with their door open and like smoking a cigarette or whatever while they're waiting for alternate side parking, which is I guess it's today. Yeah, everybody's in their cars here. So now you can kind of see what you guys got. A van. Everybody's in their cars here. It's pretty funny. They're all here waiting because it's 8:30 to 10 a.m. Monday and Thursday. I don't know if you can see that sign right up there. All these people. This is a really good. Let's talk about this. I'd love to interview all these people and just ask, like, how much time do you dedicate to alternate side parking? Because clearly you have the time to do it. This person has a phone open right next to me here, and they just got honked at because they're not paying attention. Here we got T715107 parked in the bike lane. Oh shoot, she's giving tickets. Oh man, NYPD. I think that officer gave that first MBA vehicle, the big truck, like moving truck, it had a ticket in its window. That's interesting. So let's talk about alternate side parking. All those people just waiting. It's I guess it's getting close to 10 a.m. It's not even close, actually 9:30. 9:30 a.m., maybe a little later right now because I got a late start. and they are all sitting in their cars. Just think about that for a second. Probably 3/4 of those cars had people in the driver's seat. They're all able to sit on a weekday, on a Thursday, at nearly 10 a.m. And they're obviously there because they're not supposed to be there because it's alternate side parking, which means that the whole lane should be clear, right? There should be no cars. But instead, it's like this kind of unspoken rule that you get to just sit in your car and idle during the hours of street cleaning, during that period, even though it's supposed to be completely empty, because, you know, you'll just wait, and if somebody comes along, if a street cleaner comes along or if the cop comes along, you will then move your car because you're sitting in there. And it's such a weird kind of dynamic, because it's like, oh, enforcement, but only if you're like actively enforced. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to be caught. Which is like not a good precedent to set. You kind of want to say, no, it should absolutely 100% be empty during those hours. That is the sign, that is the law, right? The law is the law, and it's illegal otherwise. You should be summoned immediately just for being in the lane. But instead they sort of, it's like, I feel like it's like when I ask my son to like get dressed and he's like, oh, but I'm gonna do this, and he doesn't really want to. That's kind of what the enforcement agents are doing. It's like they have to walk one at a time, and then everybody is in their car and they're like, but I don't want to because it's annoying, and I have to go across the street and wait for the thing and then come back, right? And you sort of see the dance of the alternate side vehicles, which is like the shittiest dance performance ever. There's nothing really interesting about it, and you would not pay to see it at the like Lincoln Center or something. But it's like a byproduct of very poorly enforced policies. Alternate side parking, I've suggested, should be alternate side like for the entire month. So imagine that you take a street and you're like the entire left side of the street, there's no car. It's illegal to park your car 100% of the time for an entire month, not for 2 hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays or whatever, or Mondays and Wednesdays between 9:30 a.m. and 11, between, you know. No, you say it's 100% illegal. Like, there's no parking. That's it. We're just cordoning off this entire stretch. It's car, there's no parking for an entire month for this side. The next month is the other side, and that's alternate side parking. And you say, all right, we are going to give this space, like this public curb, some room to be something other than a subsidy by the city for private property from a handful, I mean, what must be 3% of the population living on that block, right? I mean, you look at the high rises and all the buildings and stuff, there's not that many parking spaces, maybe 9 or 10 on each side. Meanwhile, there's, you know, almost the same number of like buildings with 5 floors and maybe 5 condos per, or apartments or whatever, right? So there's a ton of people that you're talking about, and then there's obviously a tiny minority who is owning those cars. What I think is really funny is, and then somehow they all have time to just, you know, sit in their cars and wait. So it sort of begs the question, how economically productive are they exactly? How burdened are they? Like, oh, you know, we don't have enough money because, and we can't afford like parking, so we sort of have to do this. Or like, do they just happen to be the people who have the available time to do that? We used to be a family that did that. My wife would spend many mornings doing that alternate side parking dance, and it was really a waste of time. It was dumb, and it was all just for free parking, right? Because we were too cheap. to pay the $300, maybe $400 a month market rate for having a dedicated parking spot. That is the market rate. That is how much those spots are worth on the market just for cars, right? And even that is probably heavily devalued. Like there's probably, if you kind of expand that, the definition and the value, yes, like that's how much people will pay to park their car, but it's really unclear what the overall value is for the neighborhood to have that space available. I don't know, I'm unaware of studies or anything that have shown like when, oh shit, this woman, is she okay? Are you all right? Yeah. You okay? Sorry. And so you think like, how much is it worth? It's obviously worth, so I don't, you know, so those people, they are doing a calculation. They have decided that it's worth, let's say, a minimum of 3 hours a week, every single week, to sit in their cars during sort of peak morning time where maybe they're supposed to be at work, but they're not, where they have, I don't know, their schedules allow for sitting in their cars at 10 a.m. Certainly I'm just getting to work now, so whatever, I'm not really gonna comment on that because people have different schedules. But I think the main point is it only allows for people who have schedules like that to participate in that style of parking. So they're paying with their time. They're paying with their time, and they're valuing their time. Well, I don't know, they're devaluing their time, I guess. There's not a lot of value of that time because they're just doing that, and they are valuing that time at roughly $300 or $400 a month, I guess. And all the inconvenience that presumably comes along with whenever they actually use the car. So keep in mind, the only time they're doing this is just when you're like required to move the car, right? So it's literally just to park it. So that's not a comment on, you know, they go out on a Saturday, they come back on a Sunday, and then they circle the block 12 times for 4 hours trying to find a find a parking spot. I think that's the experience that we've all had that experience. And it's literally the worst experience ever. And so I can empathize truly with that feeling when you're like trying to drive around, it's getting late, you're just driving around and you're like, just let a parking spot open up here. Is anyone around, anyone moving? And you're just mindlessly clocking miles around your neighborhood, you know, a mile out, probably a mile diameter is, or radius is kind of how far you're willing to go at that point. And you're sort of just burning time that way. And again, like, we sort of value that time at almost nothing, or you don't think of it. Here's this roundabout, there's people in traffic. I mean, traffic is a better example of how people don't really value their time at all. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for those like 25 people who were sitting in the parking spots. And if you just line them up with all the other people who would benefit from that space, from alternative uses or alternate uses, like parklets or safe spaces, or just reducing the kind of crash statistics at those areas, or simply reducing the crossing distance for that old person home or the nursing home that's there. It's kind of like a outpatient complex, right? That they gotta, I mean, you see elderly people walking at the top of that 106th Street hill between Amsterdam and Columbus all the time. There's a project to put a crosswalk there and maybe a light, which will help. Meanwhile, that's what they're doing. And like, this is what we're doing. This is stupid. It's just all of it is really stupid. It's a very, very stupid way. It's a poor use of public space, is what it is. Oh, interesting. Oh yeah, they opened this up so that pickup truck can go through it. A pickup truck for the parks department. So yeah, I don't know. So that's kind of an interesting dynamic. I don't know how much kind of reporting has been done on the types of people and the kinds of parking that you see with the alternate side parking people. Certainly they're like kind of neighborhood, they like personalities probably. Like they all probably know each other. They probably know each other's cars. They probably do not say hello. They're not like friendly because they're all in competition. So just right off the bat, free parking immediately puts you in competition with your neighbor. It's such a weird power dynamic. Right, and Maddie, my wife, has dealt with that in the past, and no more. Like, it's not worth it. It's totally not worth it. There you go. I am sweating a lot. Oh yeah, so the other real fun thing was yesterday morning I was waiting at 26th Street to cross the awful West Side Highway, and corner of my eye I noticed a van move, which is a really nice electric bike, pedal assist, but electric bike, and then I see the guy and I'm like, oh, this guy looks really familiar. He passes by. I consult the footage later and realize it's the same guy from the video from maybe like a month ago, who yelled at a bunch of cops that were all parked in the bike lane somewhere downtown, maybe Madison Square Park, I think. I couldn't tell where it was, but he became kind of like an instant legend because he just really took these cops to task. There were, I don't know, half a dozen of them, maybe more, and he's yelling at them, saying what all cyclists kind of feel when they see cops parked nonchalant in the bike lane where there's no reason, there's no emergency, there's nothing. They're just playing Candy Crush and eating a bacon, egg, and cheese or something, and just hanging out. And this happens so much. You really do see this all the time. I capture, it's all captured on footage quite frequently. You can go into Twitter and find cops in bike lanes. And so anyway, I see this guy, check the footage, and I'm like, this is the same guy. Holy shit, that's awesome. So I posted a tweet because I never actually knew who the guy was. You know, he's just a guy with a van moof, and you know, turns out a big mouth. Okay, you know, he's got what it takes to kind of speak like that to cops, which, you know, most of us don't really have. And I realized it's the same guy, wrote a tweet, and turns out I know him pretty well on Twitter, Rob. And so he actually tweeted back at me and said, oh, you know, my mother said I'd become something, or something like that, and it was really funny. And that's when I was like, my mind is absolutely blown. I had absolutely no idea it was the same guy. This is a guy I follow on Twitter, very active in bike advocacy, and I remember him because he's part of a lot of groups, and I didn't really meet him personally, but had seen him in a community board meeting a couple of years ago when it was talking about the crosstown protected bike lane on 26th and 29th Street. And he, you know, spoke very passionately about that in that meeting. You know, so I managed to speak a little bit then too, and it's kind of not a huge meeting. It was not particularly controversial either. I think everybody was very much in favor of this. The board was very, you know, this is a community board 4 that includes like check peds and other major, you know, they're sort of the lead, they're the leaders in safe streets and doing what they can. So a lot of the community board is that. Anyway, and then all the people in the audience were also very obviously pro, you know, life, like pro not killing people on bike lanes. It's hard to be against this stuff, but there are those people. Anyway, really like, so my mind is blown. So I'm gonna try to meet up with Rob. I'm gonna give him a call probably this week and chat, get some ideas for how I can improve this, my little show, my little one-person operation here. So I'd love to hear him out about that. He's a video production person, does television and film, and so that's cool. So that was really cool from last night. Let's see. Other news, 311 just brought back their recaptcha on their submission form. So if you don't know what any of that is, I run a service called Reported, which makes it easy for people to report largely like cars and bike lanes and cars blocking crosswalks and illegally parked and things like that. And they can submit it very easily on the app. It gets submitted into our database, and then on the back end, I then have a script that automatically submits that data into 311's direct form. And on this form, you have to fill out a lot of information. So I automate all that, made it super easy. And it has really grown in popularity. There's a lot of people who use it. But as of yesterday, I think 5 p.m. maybe, they changed the form. And on the last step, they added a reCAPTCHA, which is basically a box that says, I am a human, I am not a robot. And when you click it, you then have to fill out, you know, pictures of like streets or traffic signals or whatever. And you click on all this crap, and it just it massively slows you down. And you can't really automate this. At least I couldn't at the time. Sometimes they're triggered because you're doing too many submissions in a short amount of time. So it's basically more of like a throttling mechanism. And that's how the original form was. But then they, back in June, the form was updated to this new one. And one of the benefits was that it no longer had a CAPTCHA. So I was able to submit with no real delays, tons and tons of real submissions. So then all of a sudden last night this happened, and basically it's sort of blocked. The form just has this checkbox, and there's nothing you can do except wait. And so I think what I've had to do is basically slow down. I have my script running every 10 minutes, so basically say like, all right, are there submissions? If there's a submission, then open up 311 and file it, right? Every 10 minutes if it found one. And sometimes that can actually, people are submitting quite a bit, quite frequently. Now, because of this thing, I think it's throttling, so I've switched it down so it only runs once every, I think I set it to every 3 hours. Once every 3 hours. In the hopes that I can get the CAPTCHA to fade away, because, the system will notice that my IP hasn't been used in a while and maybe return. But I don't know how they implemented this. Like, you can implement it as a throttle, or you can implement it probably where it shows up on every single submission. And if that's the case, then we're really kind of in trouble. So I don't know. So now my queue for Reported is just, it's just gonna grow. And I don't really know what to do about that, except keep putting pressure on 311 and my contacts there, and hope that they can eliminate it. Here we got this nincompoop just sitting in the in the greenway. So yeah, so that's some news. I don't know if I have too much else. I think I'm going to start a list of guest interviews for my little show here. It's not really a show, let's be honest. It's just raw video getting recorded. I know that. I'm not saying it's anything that it's not. It's just me talking. But I think guests will make it more interesting. I think that's typically how things get more interesting, is when it's not just one person just talking the whole time. Unless you're like one of these personalities who can kind of run their own podcast, like a Joe Rogan, I guess. But even all these places, everything actually has guests. So I'm definitely starting at the lowest end of this, with no experience in this, in entertaining people with content. Oh shit. Oh man, the left turn signal just turned green and I'm several blocks out, which means I'm gonna miss it. I can't really go any faster. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna catch the tail end. It's another kind of topic that's super annoying. So right over here on the left, you see there's a red light for the highway and then a green left turn only signal for left turning cars. And that's the only time when you get a walk signal. Whereas a pedestrian or a cyclist, you can cross this, you know, behemoth of garbage, right? This cesspool of 16 lanes of trucks and cars and drivers and everything, all mixed in here. And you can see I already missed it, so it turned green here. But now, so I just missed it. Now I gotta wait probably 2 minutes. I think this light is like at least 2 minutes. It's one of the most grueling kind of things ever, right? Because look at this. Nobody's moving, then they're gonna move, then they're gonna move, and you're just like painstakingly watching cars move through a green light. Maybe they're going kind of faster. If they're fast, then it's scary. If they're slow, then it's frustrating. Basically, the whole thing is just very hostile towards cyclists, right? If you think about it, you could have a whole bunch of people waiting right here in this little spot. I mean, right now there aren't, but within 2 minutes, a lot of, people will collect and they'll want to turn and they can't. H Hudson 1 Mini Cooper, cool. And so yeah, like from here I can just see directly in, like this guy's on his phone or his screen, this person in their Porsche, this person in their 4MATIC, their Quad-matic, whatever, Mercedes, right? And you see just like who's in the driver's seat in all these cars and what are they doing. And quite frequently, it's hard to see, I think you probably just can't see on the camera, but quite frequently they're just like, this guy's just on his phone, they're tweeting, no they're not tweeting, but I mean maybe they are, but they're just like tooling around, distracted. And here, like, I have to go through this crap. This person's definitely coming in here, all because a bunch of drivers blocked the box and there's zero enforcement. Then you got this guy. This is not legal. This guy's completely on the buffer there. This guy's on the buffer too. And what the fuck is this? So none of this is workable. And And this guy's like, ah, fuck you. I'm gonna just go straight on the sidewalk. This guy's on the phone. So there's literally, I don't think there's a single space here for cyclists. Like all of this is on, like actually on the bike lane. Oh, here we go. This little stretch of green is not tainted. Here's a guy just went through a red light. HWF 9541, I think. In his, I think it's a Chevy SUV. And look, there's literally a police officer right there. But I don't think there's anybody in the car. Thank you, traffic. And this is the indignity of riding a bike, or even just, everybody should be appalled by this. It's not just like cyclists. You should be appalled that you have some street design that's violated, that's just all sorts of ineffective here, and that that the police just sort of sit idly by. I mean, I can see in my view here, there's 3 other police vans right here, in addition to this traffic car. Dude. So here, it's the day after September 11th, still a massive line of cars backed up. You see tons of Jersey drivers. Jersey, New York, I don't know what that is, Michigan, New York, New Jersey, Georgia. This big truck, cool. They're doing a film or something. Taxi, Uber, Jersey, more taxi. Not even looking, but you know.
It's all fixed. We already talked about that.
999. Hey. Hey, hey. So yeah, like most New Yorkers should be upset and annoyed that you have some design, it's not followed at all. If you're in a car, you can sort of break the law without any consequences ever. There's almost no consequences, day in, day out. Anybody that works near there, walks near there, you know, those spots, these are like hot spots. What they notice, I mean, what you would see is that every single day, it's like this nagging kind of reminder. Every single day you're reminded that nobody is doing anything about all these cars blocking lanes, sitting in the crosswalk, whatever. And I think you just lose faith in maybe the police. I mean, police shouldn't be enforcing this stuff. There really should be an enforcement arm that does just bike lane enforcement and parking enforcement. And that is technically like, okay, that's traffic. I guess it's NYPD traffic, but it's like part of NYPD. It doesn't really make any sense. There's some history there. There was a lot of fraud from the Department of Finance. Is this guy gonna stop, slow down? Is he gonna hit me? And so that's why they moved it into the NYPD, because it's like, I guess that's the history. In the 90s, there was just rampant fraud and they were like kickbacks, I don't know. It's a whole history to it. Still though, now's the time, like, okay, remove that enforcement component and the ticketing and the summons, and don't put it on people. Make it far more automated, far more effective, right? Invest in like parking patrol cars that go around and use cameras. There's all kinds of stuff that you could do. Here's this truck that's here. There's another truck that's there. Let's see if the police do anything about any of that. No, they didn't. All right, well, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Pepsi. See you later.